Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're jumping into something that really touches almost everyone. Personal finance, banking, how it all works.
Mm.
Our source material for this deep dive is called Unmasking Banking Profits and Debt Cycles. And it's a really interesting look under the hood.
It definitely promises some insights into how these financial places operate.
Yeah, and maybe how we can, navigate it all a bit better.
Yeah,
Okay, let's unpack this because what we've found in our sources is pretty eye-opening.
absolutely. So our mission today really is to pull out the core ideas from this material. We want to get a handle on the ways banks actually make money, especially from us, the consumers, with debt.
Right.
And importantly, find some actual strategies for you, the listener, to manage your money more effectively within this whole system.
Yeah, what's useful stuff we can take away?
Exactly. And what's fascinating here is how clearly our sources seem to lay out both the problems and maybe some paths forward for you.
Okay, so let's kick off with maybe the most surprising detail we found. It's this specific term, kind of jarring actually, that credit card companies apparently use internally.
Oh, yeah.
It's a label for people who, by any normal standard, are doing everything right financially. We're talking about folks who pay off their full credit card balance every single month.
Okay.
The source says these customers are sometimes called deadbeats.
Deadbeats. Wow. That's got a real negative ring to it, obviously.
Tell it.
But the thing is, and what the sources make really clear, is that in the context of how a credit card company makes money, it's not like a moral thing. It's purely economic. Meaning if you pay off your balance every month, like clockwork, you're not paying them any interest.
Ah,
And without that interest, well, from their business point of view, you're just not contributing to their main way of making money, their primary revenue stream.
that's the real kicker, isn't it? You think you're being a great customer, managing your money well,
Mm-hmm. Responsible.
but from the bank's side, you're actually sidestepping the whole profit engine. It really makes you rethink things.
It does.
If being financially disciplined gets you called a deadbeat inside these companies, what does that actually tell us about, well, their priorities and how these products are designed?
It just highlights a basic truth, really. Financial institutions, they're businesses. And their products, like credit cards, are designed very carefully with specific ways to make money in mind.
Okay.
Now, it's not to say those deadbeat customers aren't valuable at all. They might help build a good credit history the bank uses elsewhere, or just add to the customer numbers.
Sure, there's other factors.
Right. But that term, deadbeat, it points directly to where the big money is for credit cards.
Yeah.
It's the interest payments.
Okay, so we've got this surprising label out in the open. Now let's connect that view from inside the bank to the real-world impact on people. Because the numbers in our source material, they paint a pretty stark picture for a lot of us.
They really do.
The average credit card debt per person, the sources show, is $7,951.
Yeah. Almost $8,000.
Yeah. And that's not just some abstract number. For tons of families, that's a real everyday weight on their finances.
A significant burden. And the sources, they go deeper than just the average amount. They show what happens long-term if you're carrying that debt, especially if you can only manage to make the minimum payments each month.
Right, the minimum payment trap.
Exactly. So for that average debt, that $7,951, if you only pay the minimum, which is typically around, say, $165 a month, well, the math is pretty sobering.
Okay, so if I'm paying just that $165 minimum on nearly $8,000, how long does it actually take to clear it, according to the sources?
Get this. 17 years.
17.
Yeah, 17 years. Just, wrap your head around that for a second. Almost 2 decades.
Wow.
Nearly a whole generation.
Yeah.
Just paying off what might have started as a, manageable credit card balance.
Mm-hmm.
It really shows the power of compound interest when it's working against you, especially at typical credit card rates, the APRs.
You're not just paying the original amount.
Not at all. You're paying interest on what's left and often interest on the interest that's already piled up. It's a cycle.
17 years. That's a huge chunk of anyone's working life. And, okay, besides the time, what about the actual cost, the extra money paid in interest over all those years? What did the source say about that total?
Okay, this is where it gets, well, truly astonishing. Over those 17 years, paying just the minimum, you wouldn't just pay back the original, let's call it $8,000.
Right.
The total amount you'd pay just in interest would add up to $25,000.
Wait, $25,000 in interest?
$25,000 on an original debt of under $8,000.
That's That's insane.
It's a huge difference, isn't it, between the borrowed and the total interest paid. It just perfectly illustrates how making only minimum payments can trap you in a cycle that, frankly, massively benefits the lender.
25 grand in interest on an 8 grand debt. It really makes you look at that minimum payment line on your statement differently, doesn't it? It seems small, manageable.
Deceptively so.
But it's designed to keep that revenue flowing for the bank for as long as possible.
Precisely. That minimum payment cycle. It creates this incredibly reliable long-term income stream for the banks. But often, it comes at a huge personal cost to the individual. It drags out the debt, massively inflates the total cost.
It keeps you stuck.
Yeah, it can feel like being stuck on a financial treadmill. It really brings up a big question about how we even think about minimum payments. They might feel like a temporary fix.
A little breathing room.
Right. But they can actually be a major obstacle to ever really getting out of that debt cycle. Financial literacy around this is just so key.
And it's not just credit cards driving profits like this. Our sources also pointed to another big one, overdraft fees.
Oh, yeah.
And the numbers here are also pretty staggering. Some banks, according to the source, are making something like $2.2 billion a year just from overdraft fees.
Billion with a B. That's a massive amount purely from penalties, essentially for accounts going below zero.
Exactly. Penalties for not having enough money.
And what's really tough about overdraft fees, and the sources touch on this, is who tends to get hit the hardest.
Who is that?
It often disproportionately affects people who are already, financially stretched thin, people living paycheck to paycheck with very little cushion in their accounts.
Yeah.
These fees usually kick in when a transaction, even a small one, takes the balance negative. And instead of just declining it, the bank often lets it go through.
And then charges you for it.
Exactly. Charges a fee for the service of covering it temporarily.
So someone might have like $5 left, buys a coffee for $4, and bam, hit with a $35 overdraft fee. Is that how it works?
That's exactly the kind of scenario. And the sources warn it can get even worse than that sometimes.
How so?
Well, you can get hit with multiple fees in a single day. Imagine making several small debit card purchases after your account's already tipped into the negative. Each one can trigger its own separate fee.
Ouch. So it stacks up fast.
Really fast. It's a cascading effect. A small shortfall can suddenly blow up into hundreds of dollars in fees, making it incredibly difficult for someone to catch up. It becomes another major profit center for banks, and sadly, just feeds that cycle of debt and financial stress for a lot of people.
Okay, so let's recap where we are. We've pulled back the curtain on that deadbeat label, which is wow. We've seen the truly shocking cost of just making minimum credit card payments at $25,000 in interest on about $8,000 debt over 17 years.
Hard to forget that number.
And we've touched on the billions, like $2.2 billion a year for some banks, just from overdraft fees and how they can snowball.
Right.
So the source material kind of puts it bluntly after all this.
Right.
When you overspend, when you rely on these products, maybe without fully understanding how they work, well, businesses and banks tend to win, and you, the person, can end up stuck in debt.
That's the tough reality it lays out.
So the big question then is, what does this all mean for you listening? If you want to change that dynamic, how do you, as the source puts it, kind of beat the system?
Well, the encouraging part is that the sources don't just point out the problems. They do offer some really clear, actionable ways forward. The main idea is understanding how it works so you can choose not to be the main source of their profit.
Right, making informed choices. So the first direct solution from the source, specifically about credit cards, it's actually super simple but really powerful.
What is it?
Always pay off your
Yeah.
balance in full every single month.
That's it. That's the foundation. Doing that one thing directly cuts off the main profit engine, the interest that credit card companies rely on from your account.
So you stop feeding the beast, basically.
Exactly. You turn the credit card from something that generates debt for you
Mhm.
into just a tool, a convenient way to pay, maybe earn some rewards, but without costing you extra in interest. It's a really fundamental step towards taking back financial control because it stops your money from just constantly leaking out as interest payments.
So you use the card, maybe get points or cash back, whatever, but you zero it out before that interest calculation even starts. It flips that whole deadbeat idea around. You're denying them the interest they want.
Precisely. You're using the tool on your terms, getting the convenience, maybe some perks, but avoiding the trap, the built-in profit part. It just means you need the discipline, right, to only charge what you actually know you can afford to pay off completely that month.
Makes sense. Okay, and there was a second key strategy from the source. Just as important, maybe even more basic,
Which is?
The first step to really getting ahead financially, it says, is to stop buying things you don't actually need, especially if buying them means you have to go into debt.
Ah, yeah. That one hits deep, doesn't it?
Hmm.
It's about more than just one purchase.
Seems like it.
It connects straight to being a more conscious consumer, sure. But maybe more critically, it's about preventing the debt from even starting.
Hmm.
Think about it. If you don't take on debt for stuff you don't really need,
Then the whole cycle doesn't even begin.
exactly. You sidestep the whole merry-go-round of minimum payments, high interest, maybe those overdraft fees if things get tight. It's like preventative medicine for your finances.
Mm-hmm.
It's crucial for building long-term financial health because it keeps your foundation solid. It lets you actually save, maybe invest, instead of constantly just trying to bail water against rising debt.
It sounds like it's as much about changing habits as it is about crunching numbers.
I think that's a huge part of it.
Breaking that impulse to buy now, pay later, or trying to keep up with what others have, especially if it means swiping a card when you don't have the cash ready.
Absolutely. The sources, even if they don't say it outright, really imply that financial well-being isn't just about knowing the math. It's about mastering your spending impulses, making choices that actually line up with where you want to go long-term.
Instead of falling into patterns that just make money for the banks at your expense.
Yeah, it's about being mindful, being intentional with your money.
And there we have it. A pretty deep dive into unmasking banking profits and debt cycles. We kicked off with that really arresting deadbeat label.
Still sticks with you, right?
Totally. How banks view customers who pay on time. Then we saw the, frankly, terrifying cost of minimum payments, that $25,000 in interest on an $8,000 debt over 17 long years.
Hmm.
We also touched on the billions, $2.2 billion annually for some banks, raked in from overdraft fees and how they can cascade, especially hitting those who can least afford it.
A tough cycle.
But crucially, we pulled out two clear, strong strategies directly from the source for you to take back some control. Number one, pay off those credit card balances in full every month, no exceptions. Avoid the interest trap.
A fundamental.
And number two, make that conscious choice to stop buying things you don't truly need, especially if it means taking on debt to do it. Prevent the cycle before it starts.
Solid advice.
So after exploring all this, it leaves us with a pretty significant question, I think. Something for you, the listener, to really chew on.
Go on. Okay, so this raises an important question for you to consider. If the system, as we've seen, is kind of set up by design to profit quite handsomely from your debt, how might really internalizing that knowledge, understanding that design, how might that fundamentally change your day-to-day financial choices and maybe even your whole relationship with money moving forward?
That is a powerful thought to end on. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive today. Keep asking those questions, keep looking into your own financial world, and keep exploring. We'll catch you next time.